What if I told you a town built by freed people in the shadow of slavery was never meant to exist, and yet it still stands? In an America where the promises of Reconstruction were crumbling into the dust of Jim Crow, the very idea of Black self-governance was seen as a dangerous fantasy. A town owned, governed, and populated entirely by African Americans? To many, it was unthinkable. I'm Rondia Kaufer, and this is From Chains to Change, where the buried truths of Black history rise to the surface. Today we uncover the story of Eatonville, Florida, the town that dared to exist. The year is 1887. Florida's air is thick, damp with heat. Roads are little more than trails of dust and swamp. These families are leaving behind a world of sharecropping that was little more than slavery by another name, a world where their votes were suppressed and their lives held cheap. They travel with wagons, carrying everything they own: quilts, tools, family Bibles, all bundled tight. Mothers hush tired children, their lullabies a soft prayer against the unknown. Fathers walk ahead, their eyes scanning the tree line, wary of who might be watching from the shadows. Every mile is dangerous, and not just from the elements. They travel through territories where Black ambition was met with suspicion, and Black success with violence. The contract for the land itself, a fragile shield. A white seller could change his mind and snatch the land back with the stroke of a pen. In a legal system designed to disempower them, a handshake could be forgotten, a signature dismissed. But still, they walk. Their quiet procession a defiant answer to a nation that questioned their very humanity. Because this journey is not wandering, it is building. This was a pilgrimage toward a promise, whispered in churches and planned in secret meetings. Led by visionaries like Joseph E. Clark and Lewis Lawrence, these 27 families weren't just buying acres, they were buying autonomy. They carried more than bundles. They carried determination, faith, and a vision of a place where their children could be educated by their own. Where Black-owned businesses would line the streets and a Black mayor would govern. Land of their own, community of their own, sovereignty in their own hands. It was a blueprint for a Black sanctuary, a testament to their unshakable faith in a future they would build themselves. On the soil they purchased, a new sound filled the Florida air, the rhythmic thud of an axe, the song of a saw through pine. This was the sound of creation. Hammers struck wood as men, once property, raised homes for their families. They split logs, framed cabins, and planted fields of corn and sugarcane, planting not just seeds, but roots for generations to come. Before the first church walls were raised, the community found sanctuary under ancient oak trees. Here, preachers didn't just share scripture, they fortified spirits and drew the blueprint for a self-governing society. Every deed signed, every brick laid, was an act of defiance. Eatonville was never just about survival. It was a meticulously crafted argument in the flesh. It was proof. Proof that Black men and women fresh from bondage could govern themselves. They established their own laws, elected a mayor, and formed a town council. They built a post office and a school where children would learn to write their own future. In August 1887, Eatonville became one of the first incorporated all-Black towns in America, a sovereign space carved from a hostile world. On paper, it was just another Florida town. But in the landscape of the post-Reconstruction South, it was a living declaration. Freedom is not a gift to be granted. It is an inherent right, a birthright to be seized, cultivated, and defended by those who claim it for themselves. But such freedom painted a target. In neighboring white towns, Eatonville was eyed with suspicion. How could a community of Black families thrive while some of theirs struggled? The sight of Black self-sufficiency was a direct challenge to the narrative of racial inferiority, an uncomfortable truth many refused to accept. This discomfort festered and found its way into the halls of power. Politicians whispered, their words laced with fear. What if more towns like Eatonville rose across the South? It was a dangerous precedent, threatening the loss of a dependent labor force, a shift in political power, and the very foundation of their control. The tension was a constant, unseen force. At night, candlelight spilled from the church windows. Inside, prayers filled the air, not only for salvation but for safety and the protection of their homes. They understood that what they had built was fragile, because Eatonville was never just about houses and fields. It was about the sacred, hard-won right to autonomy. In those early years, hope was the very air they breathed. It was the sound of hymns spilling from the Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church, the sight of children tracing a literate future on chalkboards. In the bustling market, farmers didn't just barter goods, they built a community. In the town hall, voices rose in passionate debate over their collective destiny. This was Black autonomy in its purest form, a messy, glorious, and determined experiment in self-governance, a living testament to what was possible when a people were free to build their own world. But this prosperity did not go unnoticed. Beyond the town's borders, Eatonville's success was a defiant counter-narrative to the prevailing racial hierarchy. Resentment festered, taking the form of legal challenges and manufactured land disputes. A quiet war began, fought not with guns, but with surveyors' tools and zoning ordinances. Plans were drawn for a new highway, Interstate 4, routed to slice through the community, isolating its commercial district and strangling its economic lifeblood. It was a strategy of containment, a slow, creeping siege, and still, the people of Eatonville endured. The external pressures mounted, whispers of erasure grew louder, mysterious fires, closed doors, opportunities withdrawn. The town was being slowly starved. The most insidious attack, however, was on memory itself. In the grand narrative of American history, Eatonville was rendered invisible. Historians, whether through malice or neglect, simply wrote them out, dismissing the nation's first incorporated Black town as a footnote, if they mentioned it at all. How could a place so vibrant simply vanish from the page? And yet, Eatonville did not vanish. It remained, battered, bruised, and scarred, but it was still there, a quiet, stubborn heartbeat refusing to be silenced. Among its daughters was Zora Neale Hurston, who carried Eatonville's soul into literature. Her words preserved the town's rhythms, its laughter, its struggle, so the world could not forget. Hurston once wrote, "Eatonville is the first place I ever knew as home." And through her, Eatonville spoke again. Today, Eatonville is more than a town. It is a question. What does freedom mean when the world around you denies it? And what does it take to build a home where none was meant to stand? The people of Eatonville answered, with resilience, with faith, with defiance. If this story stirred something in you, don't let it stop here. Visit Eatonville, read Zora Neale Hurston, support the community that still stands against the odds, and subscribe to From Chains to Change. Because every story we uncover brings us closer to remembering who we truly are.